All right. So welcome everyone to another episode of the Student Success First Generation podcast. And today we have Corey Hammel, who is the Assistant Director of the Southeastern Oklahoma State University Upward Bound program, working with some amazing students. And I got to work firsthand with Corey this summer and last summer. So welcome, Corey. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's good to see you. Thanks for inviting me to do this.
Yes, it's great to see you, and thank you for deciding to join me. Corey, I'm going to jump in and start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about your position and what you do as an assistant director with this Upward Bound program.
All right. Well, yes, I am the assistant director, but that's kind of a vague title, and I like that it allows me the flexibility to do a lot of different things. So professionally, on paper, probably what they say on my job description talks about hiring teachers for the summer, hiring our staff, interviewing students, talking to them, making sure that our program is promoted within the communities, and I'll talk more about that later, that we're in. So that's a lot of the things on my job description, but a lot of the things I like, in addition to that, is the working with the students. I still get an opportunity to work with them right now and virtually, but in their schools, and they come visit me on campus. So I still get a lot of the interaction I had with them because previously I've been a tutor mentor who lived on the campus as a college student. I've been an academic advisor going out to the schools, which I still get to do. I really like that component. And I've been an academic coordinator, and I still dabble with that, coming up with curriculum for the students. A lot of times, to be honest, I kind of develop the big picture for maybe the English teacher, the Spanish teacher, and let them use their expertise where they can shine. And I just help explain how they can work with our students, what our goals are for our students, and we kind of collaborate in that manner. So those are some of the things I do. Awesome. Working with students is my favorite.
Awesome. It sounds like you're like, oh, that's just that's a lot. That's like a handful. Right?
Yes.
You're definitely supporting the structure of the program and making it continue to be effective for the students. So can you tell me a little bit more about the demographic of the students that you serve?
All right. Yes. I'm in Oklahoma, and more specifically, Southeastern Oklahoma. It's a rural area, a lot of small towns. We're not near Oklahoma City. We're about 2.5 hours from Oklahoma City, about a couple of hours north of Dallas. So that's where we are. So it's very rural, a lot of schools and communities that we work with. The students we work with, just the demographics for our community, our area in Southeastern Oklahoma, and let me also include North Texas because we have 2 schools in North Texas as well, Sherman and Denison, Texas. But those students, a lot of them, those communities are first generation students in the sense that their parents didn't graduate with a college degree. They would be their first in their family to do that, which is what we're built on. That's what Upward Bound has been built on for years. A lot of low income students, maybe single income families, and my eyes were really opened when I started this job, which I've been doing for a while. Just the situation that some of these people are in and facing as far as obstacles to be able to get a college education.
Yeah, definitely. And as a first generation student myself, I can totally understand where a lot of them are coming from, but also where a lot of them are heading because they have such a great support system through the Upward Bound program. And so, Corey, why is your program at Southeastern Oklahoma State University the best Upward Bound program out there? Because someone told me that, but I don't know how accurate this information is, and I don't want to give away fake news. So please let me know why your program is the best.
People ask me that, or even if they don't ask me that, I want to tell them why I'm excited about Upward Bound. I try to be modest, but I also try to be excited about what I do. So I want to balance that fine line. And what I like about our program is just from a historical standpoint that we started in 1964. And for those that may not be may not understand TRIO programs, that is when TRIO started. The TRIO programs, Upward Bound being the first TRIO program, Upward Bounds nationwide. But we started in 1964 as well. So ever since the inception of TRIO and Upward Bound, we have been there with our students.
Awesome.
And so that I like that, but that's just from a historical context. I like that we've been around that long. From a more personal standpoint, the students in our area and in the schools we serve are so supportive of what we do. It's just exciting to have community after community after community. We're in 25 schools, by the way. That's a little different. Some people up in the city, they have a huge population, so they've put together a great program within the city. We're spread out in a lot of communities, so it requires a lot of teamwork and effort within the communities and within our staff, and I like to see how that works. So while our program is rural and has many programs or many schools that we serve, which I think is what makes it exciting and why I would say our program is the best if I'm cheering our team along, which I do. I get excited because I see TRIO programs across the state, across the nation, Upward Bound, student support. They do wonderful things. And I think each person and program is exactly where they need to be. And I'm so glad that God put me where I am and I have the opportunity to serve the students I do and work with the people I do.
Definitely. Love it. Love it. And so when it comes to, the current state and situation that we're in with the pandemic and everything, is there anything that's kind of keeping you up at night when it comes to like your students and the work that you do?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, even with I have children, my own children that are 8 and 10. So I'm thinking about their education in addition to what I do professionally with the students that I work with that are close to me as well. So what it will look like in the fall when school resumes in some form or fashion, and by that, by that same token, that we look at how we will serve our students in 25 communities. That's the other thing. One community might respond one way, and 8 others might respond this way, and then 7 others might respond a different way. So we have to be flexible, and we want to be understanding and realize that each community is different, even in our small little part of the country, or place in the state. So those things, but I want to insert something here when I say it keeps me awake at night, or you mentioned that, and I mean it in a good way, that I want to look at ways to be a part of the solution and part of the problem solving process. I realize there will be challenges out there. I don't want to stay awake at night overly concerned about things I can't control, but I want to be thinking ahead and be proactive. Okay, I realize my students will be at a disadvantage maybe because they missed the last 2 months of face-to-face class time in the spring. And we've already been looking at that during the summer. So I just want to be proactive. Those things keep me awake with, I'm a little bit anxious to get back and get my feet on the ground.
Right.
So I guess that's what I'm thinking about a lot lately.
Okay. So you're more of like, I'm ready to get in gear and see what we can do to start getting ahead of the barriers that the students are going to be faced with as they move into the fall.
Right.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And so what do you think is one best practice, if you could share one, to effectively work with first generation students? One practice that comes to your mind.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that come to my mind, but one of the first things that came to my mind when I started this job, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, so I've been doing this a while, And even with that experience, I have to remind myself that I need to continue to learn and realize whatever situations, for example, this pandemic, I didn't go through anything like that at all as a high school student, as a college student, at any point in my life until, the past few months.
Right.
So I just need to remind myself that what the students I work with, what they're facing is different than what I faced. And part of what helped me, and there's disadvantages and advantages to everything. When I hear you talk about being a first generation student, I just almost want to take notes because I'm actually second generation. My dad was the first in his family to get a college degree. And so I had that benefit of my dad having a college degree. So I think part of the benefit for me was that experience, the support I got. But when I heard first generation students, I didn't automatically assume I knew what they're going through because I wasn't a first generation student. So I think whether you're like me and you have, you were maybe somebody else in your family, your parents went to college, or even if you didn't, it's just important to remember that these experiences the students are going through will be different than my experience and
Definitely.
your experience. And we can help them with some of the things we learned, but I need to also remember to listen and make sure I understand what they're saying to me. So I don't take them along the path that I took just because that's what worked for me.
I love that. I really like that. Listening and understanding that there's a difference here because what you're going through now, we can only imagine, like we know, but we don't know because they already had a list of things before a pandemic, whether it's, mental health and depression and social media and bullying and all these things. And then you top that with what's going on and it's pretty heavy. So thank you so much for sharing that. And so my next question is, if I asked some of your students, what they love the most about Mr. Hammel, what do you think your students would say? Like, what's that one thing that they love about you, they laugh about with you? What is it?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind, and some of them surprise my students because they don't know when to expect it. But I guess, first of all, the more lighthearted side is that I will spring on them some surprise, maybe karaoke lyrics or talent or silliness or bad dad jokes, whatever it may be, because a lot of times in our classroom setting and in that setting, I'm more straightforward. I want them to have fun. I listen. I think I like to have discussions. So I think one thing they realize is in the classroom setting, even though I'm still structured and expect respect for me and for each other, that I like to hear what they have to say. So the discussion aspect, being able to be lighthearted and friendly. The other thing I would say is just that they can count on me, they can depend on me, and that's students that kind of touches on something with the students I work with, the passion they have, and just the reward it is, how rewarding it is to work with these students.
Yeah.
But they can count on me now, but from a professional standpoint, kind of there's maybe a gray area, but after they graduate, after they finish their last summer with Upward Bound, we follow them, keep in touch with them, but professionally, we're not serving them on a day-to-day basis like they are when they're in high school. That being said, I have students that even this summer that I knew from 20 years ago, and I'm still checking in with them. They're checking in with me. And a lot of them are concerned. They're saying, are you still having Upward Bound this summer? How will it look? Okay. And that's just exciting. We had another student, did a university tour online, and one of our students had been to that university. So we had him speak, and it's just, the fact that they know they can still contact us years later and either we can make a job reference for them or they can add us as a reference, those type things. And I guess, I don't know how much more, or if you have any other questions, but I do have a couple of stories I wanted to share that are quick, because it really related to you. You asked why we were the best, and I shared some things, and and this isn't so much about being the best, but just what it's like to be in Upward Bound with a couple of stories. And with the pandemic, graduation, for example, has looked a lot different. I've seen people that met in huge stadiums, and they did a creative thing where they had like a ring of honor, so to speak. They had their family making a ring around them. They could invite like maybe 5 people, and that's how they social distanced. And in one of our communities, what they did is it was almost like a parade. We have a parade route in our town.
Okay.
And every student that graduated in our hometown here in Durant, they drove, and some of them I saw one student in a limousine. I saw another student in a semi. They were creative. Some of them just in their regular cars, some of them cardboard cutouts of themselves in graduation gear. But we supported our community that way. And my kids and I, we were at home, and we made signs for them. So they made this parade route like 2 or 3 miles long so people could, space out in the parking lot. And we're holding signs, congratulations, we love our students. We're so excited for you. And some of the students were saying, they felt like they got something more special than others, what the tradition is of, the tried and true tradition. They were like, we got to have a parade. The whole town was out there. We're holding up signs. People are honking. They're honking at us or whatever. And that was beautiful. And so that's my class that graduated this year, 2020 pandemic year. Well, fast forward like 3 weeks later, we had some tough times in our community, and there were 4 families that really needed some support in our community. They had 4 high school students died tragically in a car wreck, and our community was really trying to support those families. And one of the restaurants in town shut down the day that they normally shut down. They were shut down to normal business, but they opened to the public for a food drive, and any money that they raised that day from food sales went to those 4 families to help them out and cover the cost of, say, the funeral or any expenses or whatever that family needed at the moment.
Wow.
And one thing that was just moving enough, and the traffic in our small little town, we're not huge. We're not Miami, or we're like a small town of maybe 15,000 people. Traffic was blocked on Main Street, or backed up for like 10 or 12 blocks because people were pulling up. It was curbside service, 10, 12 blocks of cars to buy food that day. In fact, our family, ironically, we were buying food. The food we were buying was to deliver to one of the families that had lost a loved one. So that was moving on 2 counts. But the last part of that story is it just really touched me, because a police officer in our community saw the long lines, and they're directing traffic because our town's not really equipped for that kind of traffic jam. And the police officers directing traffic, and took a picture, and multiple people had offered that police officer Gatorade, water, because it's down here. Everywhere it looks like it's like 100 degrees, 5 PM. Well, that police officer was one of my former students, an Upward Bound student. And she's serving the community. At the same time, she's humble enough to thank the community for their concern about her being hydrated, giving her Gatorade. And that's the way Upward Bound is. That's the way our community is. That's the way TRIO programs are. Yeah. And I can see that in your smile and your life, and the way you really touch our students. That's part of your life. So I wanted to share that story because it was really moving to me.
Yeah, and you hear it throughout the whole thing. It's just like community, everyone's taking care of everybody, and everybody's putting aside whatever might be going on in their personal life to take some time and focus on those who are in need. And TRIO, definitely, you learn that sense of like family and taking care of each other. And therefore, when you learn it, especially if you're in the program for several years, it just follows you when you exit out the program. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love feel-good stories. All right, so we're down to the last question, which is just leaving our viewers with just one positive sense of motivation or just something that you want them to hear that they can use to, you know, move forward in their life, just whatever's on your heart to share.
Yeah, I feel like students, professionals, people, healthcare workers all over the place, people that are making sacrifices to continue to help things function or move along in this time where we talk about normalcy and it's the new normal, whatever that might be. I think the thing I have to remind myself in I mean, I think others are doing this as well, is just don't ever grow weary of doing what is good. That's in the Bible. I didn't come up with that on my own. I'm not that brilliant, but that really has stuck with me recently. It's like, do not grow weary of doing what is good. And to me personally, I just elaborate on a little bit of that. Is this was my first summer. This is my 28th summer to do this. This is my first summer to not be on campus with the students. So that was a little bit disappointing. I like traditions. I like the tradition. You know, I told you our program's been around for 56 years now. So that was a little bit disappointing, but I keep having to remind myself, and whatever comes up in the fall, that's going to be a new look than what last fall looked like. I can't dwell on that, but don't grow weary. And just, you have things to offer, and don't get tired of doing what is good. And the other thing that says to me is, the good news about that is, even though we get tired, I think there's a lot more opportunity to do good now, because even things that seem very trivial a few months ago, just like maybe knocking on your neighbor's door to see if you can pick up groceries for them, is a very meaningful thing. So I'm not saying you have to change the entire world and solve the world's problems by yourself. I think it's important that even these little things that we do are big things to the people around us. So
Definitely.
don't grow weary in doing what is good.
I love it. Don't grow weary in doing what is good. Don't you forget it. You're watching this. Corey and I want you to know, don't grow weary. Keep doing the good things. And it doesn't matter how big or small it is. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
All right, Corey. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence, your words of wisdom, and all that you have to offer in your program. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us on this podcast.
All right. Thank you. It's been great. I've enjoyed it.